Now, we often talk about Bitcoin as a singular entity, but there are actually a handful of forks in the protocol that operate independently. Bitcoin SV is one of them, short from Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. A startup called TAAL Distributed Information Technologies believes it will be the transactional infrastructure for businesses in the digital era. Let's bring in the company's president, Chris Naprawa. He is chairman and former president of Chiron Life Sciences. Still got that going on. Previously a partner at Sprott Capital. He worked in equity sales at Macquarie Canada, Dundee Securities, and he's the founder and CEO of startup StartCast Solutions. We've got Chris on the line now. Good to see you, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you doing?
Amazing. I'm so glad to be here. What a great show. What a great show.
Good. Thanks a lot. We appreciate that. So Bitcoin SV, Satoshi Vision, basically it's, as you've said, it's going back to the roots of the Satoshi white paper from 2008, peer-to-peer electronic cash transactions. You've likened Bitcoin SV, where it is now, to the internet in 1996. So why do you say that?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely say that. I think blockchain is just like looking at the internet in 1996. I think all of us are going to use the blockchain every single day for all kinds of applications. Investors and people that watch the market are really looking at the native coins and the prices of the native coins every day, but they miss out on the tremendous functionality of the blockchain itself. And there's tremendous applications that are all coming online right now that are going to really change the way that we communicate, change the way that we transact with each other. And I think that, if you can think of any business process, any supply chain, certainly in the financial markets where you have intermediaries that create friction and create cost, they're going to be disintermediated by blockchain technologies.
Now, Chris, I was joking with Brian Mossoff earlier about a lot of companies will say, well, we're going to be the this of this. You've got something similar. You want to be the Amazon Web Services of enterprise blockchain. So convince investors that that's more than a marketing slogan. What's behind that conviction?
Yeah, well, somebody's going to have to do it. Right now, we are the largest transaction processor or miner on Bitcoin SV. That's a fact. Our pool is the largest pool. We have, I think, the ability to maintain that lead, and if not, extend it going into the future. And Jamie touched upon it on her chat there that, eventually we're going to run out of coins to mine. It's all going to be about transaction processing. So, we're investing heavily right now in R&D and product development and customer service, getting ready to be able to provide the level of service that enterprise customers are used to from companies like Amazon and Azure and everyone else.
Chris, right now everyone's focused on the volatility and how much money people are making or losing on a daily basis, owning these coins and making these investments. What do you think? And your business is really focused on the business applications, which I think makes it interesting. What do you think is going to be the triggering event that turns it from a speculative investment to more of a commercial end use case? What's that event that happens to really push these your company particularly into the business application case?
Yeah, so we've talked today, I watched the whole show and enjoyed it. We talked about Bitcoin and we talked about attributes that people like, the scarcity of it, and there's limited supply. I really enjoyed the talk from Brian on Ethereum. A lot of Ethereum we have a tremendous amount of respect for, the tools that they've built, the ability to onboard client applications is really, really incredible. If I leave you with one thing about Bitcoin SV and why we're so focused on it, it's because of cost and scale. Today a transaction on BTC is about $60. On Ethereum today, it's around $30. On BSV today, it's half of 1 penny. So for all of these applications to find a blockchain home that makes sense for them on a global scale, it's got to be super low cost and it has to scale up. So, the kind of applications that we're working on today with enterprise clients, we're talking about billions of transactions, 1 trillion transactions, but there's just so small each bit of data going on the blockchain.
Chris, that leads to my next question. I'm glad you mentioned Ethereum. So they've got a market cap roughly of $265 million, or it does. Sorry?
Billion.
What did I say? Million?
Million.
Yeah, billions, yeah, B with a B, billion.
We're the bees now.
Thank you for calling me on that. And Bitcoin SV is around 4 billion roughly. You also know, and this is a couple of years ago, but the Ethereum creator, Mr. Vitalik Buterin, was quite critical of Bitcoin SV. So are you running uphill here in competing with Ethereum? And I guess secondarily, you can't get inside Mr. Buterin's head, but why was he so? Why did he go out of his way to be so critical of Bitcoin SV? Do you think?
Oh, there's always personalities in this technology. I can remember when I had my first company back in the mid '90s as an internet company, and everybody was just so religious about every protocol and every technology. The reality is the market's going to decide on all this stuff. And there's not going to be just one. There's going to be multiple players. If blockchain fulfills its future, and I'm absolutely convinced it will, there's room for a lot of different people in this. And all I would say is that the clients that we have today, most of them have come from the Ethereum platform not because it's so great, it's because they run into cost and scale. So out of those 250,000 developers out there that are working on Ethereum today, I just say, bring your knowledge, bring your expertise, and come home to Bitcoin. And you can scale your application, and it'll cost a lot less.
Chris, you're talking about one of the things I think you're moving towards is, and you mentioned it. You said your cost of processing a transaction is significantly less to do it than on Bitcoin or Ethereum. How are you going to, or what's going to happen, or how are you going to find your clients when they start beating a path to your door to start using this technology for their business application? What's the marketing or the business application that you're going to go after them, and what services are you going to provide to them?
Yeah, well, the good news is we already have clients. So, the markets that I'm most excited about would be supply chain, healthcare, social media. A lot of this relates back to consumer choice. So there's my slide right there. So, we have clients or use cases in almost every industry vertical that you can think of. A lot of money is being spent by developers and by companies throughout the ecosystem to be successful. And whether it's supply chain with Unisat, EHR data in healthcare, which is helping to solve for the opioid crisis in the United States, or social media. You see the Twitch logo down at the bottom. There's 4 companies in the world that are so profitable, and their only product they sell is you and I and our attributes. At some point in time, that is going to have to turn, just like in every other industry, like our airline points and our SO points and everything else. And they're going to want to start to pay us for that, for our loyalty and engagement on those platforms. And there's not a better technology in the world for it than BSV.
Chris, last question for you. The last time your company came out with earnings, revenue was down. You took a net loss. So give investors the timeline as to when you really start to ramp up revenue and profitability is around the corner.
Yeah, so this is a business that's changed focus a couple of times, and that's a fair criticism for the company in the past. But I'd say, since January 1, when we started our operations here in Canada, that is really the start of the company from a cold start. Just call it a cold start, and we'll be profitable or cash flow neutral by the end of this year. I'm quite confident of that. We just finished raising $40 million. We had a good treasury before that. And what we tell people is, like, as we work towards this future of transaction processing revenues, we are still mining, and we're winning about 30 or 40% of the blocks every day, and that's starting to add up. And just like some of your other guests, we're keeping all that on the balance sheet because it's hard for a lot of investors to hold crypto. So if you believe in BSV and you've heard about it and you're interested, that's a way to get exposure to it.
Thanks for your time today, Chris, and shedding some light on your company. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mark.
Chris Naprawa, he is the president of TAAL Distributed Information Technologies. So looking out 5 years, hard to do, I know, but who do you think are going to be the big winners in blockchain?
Well, it's
enterprise blockchain.
Enterprise blockchain. I think the big winners are going to be the ones that really bear all the costs of working in the old system. I think it'll be financial institutions where there's billions and billions of transactions processed every day. I mean, you're seeing Visa doing test cases with Ethereum. So I think that it's going to be the major financial institutions and the moving of money. But I think Chris raised an interesting question about your own personal data and where you actually maybe house your personal data, and what are you prepared to pay to have that personal data located on a chip of your own, so to speak. So I think but for the most part, it's going to be business applications, financial institutions, real estate, things that are very heavy. Healthcare is going to be another major, which Chris hit on as well. I think the big issue is what's going to be the major winner. They're all going to want to use fairly standardized technologies and standardized languages, and that's where once again I think Ethereum is really the area that where they have the most number of programmers working for business applications.
They seem to be in the lead right now, but we'll see what Chris can do with Bitcoin SV.